Hey, what's up guys? So the next video that you're going to be watching is going to be on a particular Instagrammer. Now, she actually ended up DMing me prior to the release of this video asking that I politely do not mention her name or have any sort of picture of her or whatever in the video. So just out of respect, I decided to follow through with what she wanted. So when you see this video, when there's going to be an image of her or an image that was of her, you're going to see a sort of like white censor of her, and then every time I say her name as well, it's just going to be blocked out and censored with like a sort of beep or whatever. So whatever I decide to put, but something like that. So just letting you guys know so you understand why every time you see an image of her or a potential image of her, it's just blocked, and why when you hear her name, it's completely censored. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram and know who she is because of, the prior beef I've been posting on my story, please don't expose her name, don't say her name. Just this video is going to be a critique of her views. No disrespect, just a critique of her view. I even told her like the video is strictly just logic and facts. Of course, there's some points where I get a little bit irritated with what she's saying, but in the end, I'm just trying to give her an idea of how unreasonable what she was saying is in reference to animal rights and the consumption of meat. All right, guys, let's get on with the video. All right, what's up, guys? So if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen me be involved with a little bit of beef with a pro-meat Instagrammer by the name of So long story short, she made two very unreasonable posts that were in defense of the consumption of meat, and I left 2 comments on both of these posts. So I decided that I'd make a 2-video series on her, with this video going over my first comment on her first post, and then the next video will be my second comment on her second post, because both of the posts were extremely unreasonable, and the logical extensions of the positions that she laid out in both posts were absolutely absurd, and there were also a bit of contradictions and hypocrisy on her part. So I did leave my comments, but I figured I would make these videos because I have much more to say than what I actually said within the comments. And at the end of this video, I will also show what her response was to my comment on Instagram, as well as some DMs that took place between us in response to my first comment on her first post. So with all that said, let's get into the video. So the first part of her post reads, "Yes, we eat meat. No, we are not unethical." Okay, I'm sure you guys are all already triggered. So the part that says, "Yes, we eat meat," I actually hate this whole euphemism game that meat eaters like to play. It's like, yes, we eat meat. No, we're not bad people. So vegans do not solely attack the fact that you're putting meat into your mouth, okay? So when you say, yes, we eat meat, no, we're not unethical, it's kind of misrepresentative of what we are actually fighting. We're not actually fighting you taking the meat and putting it into your mouth. We're fighting what it takes for you to get even into that position of where you can put the meat into your mouth. So what we are fighting against is the fact that you pay for animal products. And when you pay for animal products, you are supporting an industry that requires the systematic breeding, exploitation, and killing of innocent beings who would rather not be stabbed in the throat for food. So no, it isn't eating meat that is the problem per se, okay? It is the fact that you are supporting an industry that requires the breeding, exploitation, and killing of innocent beings, not just eating meat. Okay, so the second page reads, "Meat is part of the natural order and animals are part of the food web. I respect vegetarians a lot for doing what they feel is right for them. If I eat meat, it will not affect the fact that someone else may not. However, if someone else forces me to comply with their views, then I am losing my right to choose. To me, that is as unethical as it gets." Okay, so the fact that eating meat is part of the food web and that it's natural does not mean that it's moral. There are many things that are natural that we don't consider moral. Okay, rape is natural, killing is natural. That doesn't mean that raping and killing is therefore good. We can't be appealing to the fact that something is good because it's natural, because not everything that's good is natural. So that's my response to your food web natural point. And in response to your second point, yes, you're not really affecting vegans in deciding to eat meat, but you are affecting sentient life, okay? When you eat meat, as I said in the previous point, you are paying for innocent beings to be exploited and killed against their will. So you are trying to frame your decision to eat meat as a victimless choice when there is indeed a victim. This is a tactic that a lot of meat eaters like to do. They like to pretend that eating meat is just a personal choice that doesn't affect anybody else but themselves, but really, you are literally eating a being. That being had to be killed for the being to get to your plate. So yes, your decision to eat meat does affect others, not just you. Also, there are human victims to your decision to consume animal products, not just animals. Slaughterhouse workers are also at a risk of perpetration-induced traumatic stress, which is a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, and it results from situations where the concerning subject suffering from PTSD was a causal participant in creating the traumatic situation. So yes, there are victims to your decision to eat meat, and they're not just animals, they're also human beings. Okay, so the third part of the post says, if everyone stopped eating meat, all the people that work in the meat industry would lose their jobs. Is it ethical to cause such poverty and rural upheaval? We all know what happened when beef was banned in Maharashtra. I think that's how you pronounce it. Several butchers of the Muslim community lost their job, but let's save communalism for another day. Okay, so this point of, oh, people will lose their jobs if we get rid of the meat industry, this is the same reasoning that slave owners used back in the day when trying to defend their consistent use of slaves. Okay, there was a market for slavery, people made income from this, but that doesn't mean that it was justified for them to continue conducting slavery, and a moral act should not be deemed moral in virtue of the fact that it is a person's income. Okay, so to say that we should continue having the meat industry because it provides jobs is equivalent to saying that we should continue to have slavery because it provides jobs. Now, I'm not meaning to equate human slavery to actual animal slavery. I think there's a bit of a difference, but still you are trying to justify in this case that it is moral to continue to use animals for their resources and commodify them and view them as purely property solely because doing so creates profits for people and is a form of income for certain people. That is completely flawed, and we cannot be using the fact that something gives you income as a justification for continuing to do it, especially if that action involves a victim being killed and exploited its entire life. Okay, so the fourth part of the post reads, much of the Earth's land is proven to be able to sustain only livestock agriculture instead of raising crops. We would be losing a business in its revenue and have no industry to replace it with. There is no alternative solution. We would be backing people into a corner of poverty and giving them no way out. Okay, so animal agriculture is one of the most environmentally damaging industries on the planet, okay? It is one of the leading causes of greenhouse gas emissions. It is the leading cause of ocean dead zones, species extinction, and deforestation. So if you are interested in sustaining the actual planet, why would you support an industry that is one of the leading causes of environmental degradation today? So the premise that the earth is more designed for animal livestock agriculture as opposed to raising crops, and that being used as a reason to only have animal agriculture as opposed to plant agriculture doesn't make much sense because you cannot really have animal agriculture without crop agriculture. And the reason for this is because we have to actually raise a large amount of crops to sustain animal agriculture. We have to feed these 70 billion animals that we slaughter per year crops, okay? So I actually made a tweet that really represents, in my opinion, just how inefficient animal agriculture is. So here's the tweet. You don't even need crazy statistics to realize how inefficient animal agriculture is. Think of our world, where we have to feed 70 billion livestock plus 7 billion humans per year. Now imagine a vegan world where we just had to feed 7 billion humans per year. So even if we take into account the animal products that we would get as a result of killing those 70 billion animals that we ended up feeding all that grain and feed to, even if we took that into account, animal agriculture would still be extremely inefficient. Less than 10% of the calories and protein that we feed to livestock in the US come back in the form of animal products for people in the US. And yes, this study is solely on the US, but I see no reason to believe that this wouldn't extend to areas of animal agriculture outside the US. So what do you think is more sustainable and efficient? Only having to feed 7 billion human beings, or having to feed 7 billion humans and 70 billion animals per year, only to gain back 10% of the calories fed to the 70 billion animals in the form of animal products for humans? I think the answer is obvious. Okay, and at the end of this post, it also said there is no alternative solution. So what do you mean there is no alternative solution? The alternative solution to feeding 70 billion animals and 7 billion humans per year is just feeding 7 billion humans plants per year. That is the alternative solution. So the next part of the post says, in the meat producing industry, there are undeniable reports of unethical treatment of animals. But the solution to this problem is not to cut out meat altogether. When the branch of a tree is dying, do you cut down the whole tree or do you simply amputate the branch before the disease spreads? Cutting down the tree may solve the problem in a convoluted way, but one diseased area should not result in the demise of an entire system. Okay, so yes, we agree that in factory farming, animals are being treated poorly, but the thing is that there is no ethical way or humane way to kill an animal who wants to live for food, okay? We would never accept this reasoning for humans, dogs, and cats. If we raise humans, dogs, and cats nicely, do you think it would be moral to just end their lives against their will at 1/4 their natural lifespan? Do you think that that would be moral? So if you do think that it is moral to kill livestock so long as they are raised nicely before they end up being killed, I have to ask you the following consistency test. So what is it about cows, pigs, and chickens that justifies systematically breeding, exploiting, and killing them against their will, so long as during this process they were treated nicely before they got killed? Okay, so what is it about them? What are the traits, what are the set of traits about them that justifies that treatment of them, okay? Which, if was present in specific human beings, would justify doing the same things to human beings. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm equating the moral value of every human to every animal in this consistency test. What I am doing is saying, what is trait X, okay, or set of traits X, that justifies that specific treatment of animals, okay? And if we took trait X and we put it onto a human, it would logically follow for that specific human being that it is moral to treat them in the way that you're saying it's okay to treat livestock animals. So if the set of traits, let's say you name is unintelligence, okay, and we ask you, what do you mean by unintelligence? You might say, animals don't have a sense of tomorrow, they don't really understand morality, they don't have a sense of tomorrow, and they don't understand morality. Now, what if we took specific human beings that had those traits, okay? Imagine a severely mentally disabled human, they do exist, that was victim of such cognitive impairments and cognitive deficits that they were unable to conceptualize morality and understand the actual idea of tomorrow. So if those humans existed and you name the trait low intelligence, is it now moral to kill certain mentally disabled humans so long as you treat them correctly up to the point that you end up killing them? So is it moral to exploit and kill severely disabled humans that meet that specific criteria so long as you are treating them well, they are grass-fed, they are free-range, or whatever conditions that you lay out that justifies killing livestock? So I'll ask you again, please name the trait or set of traits and we'll see if you are logically consistent in your reasoning. Okay, so the last part of the post says, if you feel that animals are being treated unfairly and you want to change this, there is so much more that you can do. Advocate for your beliefs, go to rallies, educate others on the inhumanity of the industry. The meat industry does not need to be killed, it needs to be saved. Okay, so for the reasons I obviously just stated, it isn't just the actual bad treatment of animals that is the problem, it is the fact that we are commodifying, viewing them as resources, and killing them and exploiting them against their will. So yes, the meat industry does need to be abolished, not just changed a little bit, because the meat industry at the very root has a moral problem. Alright guys, so that is the end of her first post. Now before I end this video, I do want to share what she said to my actual comment. So if you remember at the beginning of this video, I said that I actually made a comment that basically summarized all the points that I made in this video, but into a shorter kind of comment. And I want to show you what exactly her response was through comments and in actual DMs. So this is her response. Her only response was, "It's my choice though." And of course, I don't need to go into depth as to how absurd it is to think an action which harms and kills another is justified in virtue of the fact that it is a choice. But I guess I will go into it anyway because so many carnists and omnivores make this argument. It is a choice for a rapist to rape or a serial killer to kill. The fact that these are choices does not justify the actual actions. So if we lived in a world where the fact that something is a choice is justified actually doing the action, literally any immoral action in virtue of it being a choice would be morally justified. That is a very insane view to have, and I would not want to live in a world where any action is justified solely because it's somebody's choice. Okay, and here's her comment to my actual comment in the actual comment thread on her post. So, at Lifting Vegan Logic and to all his friends, I appreciate the time you have taken to come to my page and voice your some not so respectful opinions. However, it all boils down to making a choice, a basic fundamental human right. Do you know how burdened soil systems that support vegan farming are? Killing for food, for survival, and killing for revenge are two different ballgames. Banning meat consumption is not the solution. So yeah, here she is again with the whole choice though argument. I'm not really going to go over it again. Obviously, the fact that something's a choice doesn't mean that it's moral. And this whole idea that, oh my God, you know how many soils are depleted by vegan crops? Now, again, she defeats herself with this argument when it comes to the environment because crops that are fed to livestock, which are mostly herbivorous, are vegan crops, okay? So we have a world where we have to feed livestock vegan crops to actually get them to slaughter weight to eventually kill them. So there's more vegan crops in a world that is not vegan than one that is vegan. So if you're against vegan crops taking up a lot of space on the planet, then you will go vegan because more vegan crops are needed to support animal agriculture because of the amount of crops that we have to feed animals than are required for an actual vegan world. So you actually have defeated yourself once again on the environmental point in saying that vegan crops are the problem. Alright guys, that is the end of the first video of the 2-video series on the second post that she made, which I will be covering in the second video, was arguably more unreasonable than this one, so really just stay tuned for that. Please like, comment, subscribe, and if you want to support me on Patreon and support my work, just click the link in the caption below and you'll see some of the funding perks that I've thrown on there. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in part 2 of this series.